Hello everyone and welcome to another really awesome game from round 3 of the 2020 Candidates Tournament. It's Kirill Alekseenko, the wild card against Jan Nepomniachtchi, and it's a really exciting game, really wild opening, as you might imagine, but such things are to be expected when Jan Nepomniachtchi is playing, for example. And we will also check out this nice photo you've seen in the thumbnail, so let's just enjoy that for a second, courtesy of Maria Emelianova for chess.com. There you have it, the nice elbow bump before the game starts. You can see that they're having a really awesome time, and I'm sure that in some way it did impact the game, the players being in such a good mood, which you will see. So let's check it out. And before this actual game, we're not going to show their head-to-head score because there isn't any. They only played one game so far. It was in 2018 World Blitz Championship that Nepo won with the black pieces with a very nice Najdorf game, which is probably why here, after Alekseenko opened with e4, he didn't go for, let's say, c5 the Najdorf. He went for e6. Nepo goes for the French defense, as probably he expected that because they already played that one game in the Najdorf that Alekseenko prepared something for him. So instead he said, okay, let's just try the French. We have d4, d5, knight to c3 and bishop to b4, the Winawer variation. We have e5, advancing the pawn, and now c5. So this is all very standard. We have a3, and now bishop captures on c3, the main line. In case someone plays bishop to a5 against you, just so you know, you can just go for b4. It's the way to go. For example, c captures knight b5. You go after the d6 square, and now white should always be better. For example, b3 check. You're gonna block check, and now most likely people will play something like bishop to c7, but whatever they play, you will have a nice game. For example, if bishop c7, you're going to capture here, and if they kick away your knight, you just capture, continue developing. Knight is coming to e2, you can castle, a4, bishop coming to a3, and you will just have a nice game. Just in case someone tries this against you. But here, Nepo goes for the main line, bishop captures on c3, we have bishop b captures, and now knight to e7. And although queen to g4 is by far the most popular line here, Nepo includes h4. So it's like AlphaZero revolutionized chess. In every opening now there's the inclusion of h4 and h5, because if AlphaZero plays it, it must be good. So queen to c7, now putting pressure on the c file, as these two pawns could become weak in some lines, and now knight to f3. Just saying that there's no real danger here, or if you're actually doing anything. If captures queen c3 check, there's nothing. Black is just wasting time. Everything's nicely defended. You have to go back. Rook c1. If anything, you just helped white develop pieces. So after knight f3, b6. Preparing to develop the light square bishop, and now bishop to b5 by Nepo. We have bishop to d7 blocking, and now bishop back to e2. You could also just go a4, you could play bishop d3, but Alekseenko prefers bishop to a2. And now bishop to a4 by Nepo. It's a very important move, prevents a4, as white would definitely enjoy putting his dark square bishop on this diagonal. And also you kind of pressure c2. For example, there could be some threats of captures, and queen captures on c2 now. And there is one game in the database where rook to a2 was played just to help out with the defense of the c2 pawn. But here, Alekseenko shows that he came very well prepared for this line. He just castles here. And now the point is, you can't really go for the c2 pawn. Do you know why? It's impossible to do it. For example, captures, and queen captures here. Even feel free to pause the video, as it's a nice idea. So just so you understand it better. So for those of you who were able to do it, I'm sure all of you. So why? So I'm just going to congratulate everyone. It's captures, queen captures, and now of course bishop to b5 check. That's why it's impossible. Now you either capture the bishop and you lose the queen, or you block check, let's say knight bc6, and then just bishop captures on a4, wins a piece. Here you're just down a piece. There's nothing for you to do. Captures, and or rook captures for that matter, and you're just up a piece. So after this castles, Nepo just continues, knight to d7, and here bishop to e3. Now it's a bit of a different story because there is no check, but still captures, captures, and captures. You will just trade here. Captures, captures, rook fc1, and you will grab hold of the either c7 square, or after the bishop moves the bishop to a6, and black will not be able to use the c file, and well, white just has excellent compensation for the pawn. So this is what Alekseenko is saying. So Nepo agrees. He goes h6, and now rook to a2. So you don't have to constantly keep an eye on this, and knight to f5, putting pressure on the bishop here, bishop to f4, and now queen to c6, most likely with the idea of just trading off the light square bishops. Alekseenko prevents it, rook to b2, and now a6, further going with the same plan. And now Alekseenko plays d captures on c5. And now, well, you could play b captures on c5, nothing wrong with that. Maybe you can castle, bring the rook to b8, trade some rooks along the b file. Nepo says that he prefers the open c file. His pawn is nicely protected here, and white does have some weaknesses along the c file, so maybe he can take advantage of that. So rook to b4, saying, okay, I'm going to defend it by attacking your bishop. We have b5, and now although the bishop is defended, it's hard to imagine how this bishop will ever be activated again. But that's for Nepo to worry about. We're just here to enjoy the show. Bishop to d3 now. Again, defending with a tactic, because if queen captures, you can capture here, captures, and queen captures on d5 is just winning for Alekseenko. There's an attack on the rook, you cannot castle because the knight falls, and let's say you do something like this, still queen b7, again with a double attack, and there's not much you can do here. If queen c5, bishop e3, now completely winning. So there is poison to the position. So Nepo just goes back. Of course, he doesn't allow this capture on f5. And now bishop back to d2. It's a timid move. For example, maybe a better try would be something like knight to d4 to give up the pawn on c3 and to go queen g4. But it's hard to evaluate this position and what's actually going on here. Will black go g6? Will he go king to f8? But either way, maybe it was a more ambitious try for Alekseenko. Instead, he goes back, bishop to d2, and now he allows Nepo to just play knight to c6. That's the problem, probably why knight to d4 was maybe a better try. And now the rook is under attack. If you move the rook, you lose the a3 pawn, and that's a very important pawn. If this pawn starts marching forward, you could have a lot of problems. So here, Alekseenko instead goes queen to e2. He gives up the exchange, but it's not all that bad because Nepo captures. We have a captures here, and now queen back to c7. And now he's down the exchange, but Nepo's bishop also isn't doing anything. So it's like he's not down the exchange. It's like this bishop isn't even here. But that's only true if the bishop remains there. So rook to e1 by Alekseenko, strengthening the e5 pawn here. Now he wants to get the knight to d4, and knight to b8, preparing to counter knight d4 with knight to c6. So we have knight d4, knight to c6, and only now queen to g4, going after the pawn here. Here, knight captures on d4, we have c captures on d4, which exposes the c2 pawn, but you do have to worry about the g7 pawn. So here, Nepo tried g6. g5 might be even better here, because after g6, here he basically gives Alekseenko a dare. What do you play here as white? Of course, your first thought is just, capture that pawn, and black's position shouldn't be able to withhold this. But it's hard to calculate everything that goes on in the position. The problem is, if bishop captures on g6, then okay, if you capture, of course, queen captures here, queen blocks, queen captures here, you grabbed 3 pawns for the piece. That's compensation in itself, and white will have at least a draw here, if not more. The problem is, after bishop captures on g6, what if you play something like queen e7? What if you castle here? Do you want to give Nepo the semi-open g file? Those are the questions you have to be ready to answer. However, it should be good for white because of this rook to e3 move. Probably something Alekseenko missed in his calculations, but still hard to evaluate. For example, king b7 getting out of the trap, rook c3, queen e7, and now bishop back to d3. You've grabbed the pawn. Black's bishop here is still doing nothing. In the future, moves like a5 shouldn't really work for black, because opening up the position on the queen side, now that the black king castle queen side, is not something you want to do. And if you start piling up on the g file, queen h5, you're going to go rook g7, maybe try and double up here, g3, and this should be very solid. It's hard to see that you will actually be able to break this. So this was definitely the way for Alekseenko to go, but it's hard to play such a move in such an important game, and especially against Nepo. Nepo is just incredible in crazy positions, probably the best player in crazy positions. So here Alekseenko played h5, which kind of does the same thing for Nepo. It gives him the semi-open g file, but without Alekseenko actually grabbing any material. And after Nepo castled queenside, now you have the problem of this c2 pawn hanging. Not yet. Of course, you don't want to meet something like this. So f4 is played, and now Nepo goes king to b8, and now this could be a problem. So now c3 by Alekseenko, and now you have this position where, compared to that one, you've given Nepo the semi-open g file, but you don't have this rook nicely placed on c3, rather it's on e1 doing nothing, and you've given Nepo a free way to activate his bishop back into the game. So definitely that bishop captures on g6 line was an improvement. But okay, Nepo continues, bishop b3, of course. He wants to trade off that dark square bishop, which he probably thought was never going to see the light of day. And now f5 by Alekseenko. We have bishop to c4, and now bishop back to c2. For now, keeping an eye on the f5 pawn, saying that your bishop on c4 is not that big of a deal here. Rook d to g8 by Nepo, and now king f2. Just getting away from the g file, and now a5. Now Nepo is not afraid to do this, as well, he's feeling pretty safe here. We have b captures on a5, and here Nepo has to decide what to do, and it's not an easy decision. Although he's up the exchange, White's position is great. This is a massive center. He still has the bishop paired. The rook is, well, for now not doing anything, but it could be doing something. So here Nepo played queen captures on a5, allowing this queen captures on f7 move. And that's maybe not the absolute best way to go about it. The absolute best way would be something like king b7, and now shifting the rook here and try to pick up the pawn with the rook. Of course, White would not allow that. Rook to e8, and now let's say g4, and you have this position where anything could happen, but it's definitely Black who should still be better, because he is up material, and but it's hard to find how you will actually do something about this. For example, maybe if you put your pieces absolutely on the best squares and then maybe bust open the position with f6 or something like that, you don't have to worry about White grabbing this pawn. Even if you move the rook, let's say, you don't have to worry about this, because you always just bring back the rook, and then you will you know, have a lot of things to do along the h file. But it's an extremely complicated game, and Nepo decides against it. Nepo decides to go for queen captures on a5. We have queen captures on f7, and now queen to a2, just going after the bishops here. And it seems like Black is completely winning. However, queen captures on e6 by Alekseenko, and now with the queen having access to the b6 square, there's not much you can do here. Nepo captured on c2, but now just queen b6 check, king to c8, and queen to c6 check. And of course here Nepo went back, queen b6 check, king here, queen c6 check, king b8, and after queen b6 check, it was in this position that the players agreed to a draw, but also it's a draw by threefold repetition. So not much you can do here. You don't have time for something like rook to c1, because you're just getting mated here. Captures, king f3, check here, and let's say rook to g4 is mate. So you don't have a way of improving your position, because everything is just hanging. This hangs, so nothing to be done here. But really an exciting game, and really awesome for Nepo that he went for the French defense. Like I said, most likely because the only game they ever played was a Knight of Sicilian, and Nepo wanted to avoid that against Alekseenko. So instead we got this really awesome line where like I said, Alekseenko had two chances where he could have gone for a more ambitious try, but it's always a question in chess. Do you go for the more ambitious try and you know, expose yourself, become vulnerable, like for example what Fabi did yesterday against Ding. He played an incredible game, really awesome, and then he did have that one chance where he had that switch to rook to e5, but he decided to not to go for it, and in the end the Ding prevailed. Here also Alekseenko had some tries like that, bishop to g6, also the knight to d4, sacrificing the c3 pawn. But in the end, the game ended in a draw. But a very exciting game, and I'm very happy that the game happened the way it did. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let's check out. I don't know if I will have time to show any more games from round 3. So let's just check out the standings after round 3, as today is a rest day. Sharing first, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and Wang Hao. Then with 1.5 Fabiano Caruana and Alexander Grishuk. With 1 point, Ding Liren, Anish Giri, and Kirill Alekseenko. Like I said, it's only 1 out of 3 for Ding, but what a point it is. Just in case you missed that game, I don't recommend you miss it. I will put a link to it in the description below. It will be the first thing you see, so do check it out. The greatest game ever. So yeah, I would like to thank Beckers Ben, Andrew Drever, Edgar Cataneo, Anthony Nesgos, and William Peck for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot, I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the FIDE Candidates Tournament until it finishes. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your Friday. And for the end, let's just check out this awesome photo once again. There you have it. See you soon.